Let's walk. Oh, hello?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. That's an intense movie. You kind of just talk about the screenplay. What were your first impressions of the story, and how did you get involved from the beginning?
I knew Thomas a little. I mean, I've never worked with Thomas before. We knew about each other, we bumped into each other. He had his little group of people he worked with, and I was working with Nikolaj, and there was no way we were going to work together. But then we grew up, and we started working, crisscrossing with it. He handed me the script, and I think I had the same feeling after I read it that you have after seeing the film. It's pretty much what's on the paper. It was a very frustrating read. I got frustrated reading it. I was very emotional reading it, but I was also super frustrated that you couldn't put your anger anywhere, and the character couldn't put his anger anywhere. It was playing turns with the door shut. He did the right and civilized thing every step of the time, and it didn't work. So it was very frustrating to me. We might even have gotten a couple high fives, but also like if he wasn't really clear, it would be. I mean, I don't think he did it. Yeah, maybe he did. I don't care. But this is unforgivable. It's just completely normal zone, right? So obviously that's part of it. Any other kind of accusation would have gone down very differently.
It's such a brilliant setup in that you, as a viewer, know he's innocent the entire time. And in that sense, it kind of has some interesting cinematic tropes, and it's almost Hitchcockian, the innocent man who's falsely, wrongly accused. I was wondering what kind of conversations you had with Thomas in preparing for this role as a character, if there's any sort of reference points in that way.
Yeah, I mean, we were obviously not going for a thriller where it's like one of the did he do it or did he not do it situations. We definitely went for seeing it through his eyes, so it was the drama of the people who loved each other. This little community, close-knit community, who've known each other since they were children, right? That was the drama we wanted to portray. We didn't want to have a thriller on top of that. Having said that, quite a few people, especially Americans, do not always see that he's innocent. They still keep acting. Yeah, I mean, they're waiting for that little. Now they're playing me now. And it turns out that he has a basement. And that was interesting. So, but I mean, it traveled well all over the world in the sense that it's a very recognizable story, or recognizable in the sense that we can identify with it. But one thing that did not travel well, all to America, unfortunately, was that one of the most dominant questions we got when we traveled with it was 10, 11, 12 years ago was like, why didn't he get a lawyer right away? and we were dumbfounded. We were like, what do you mean? And then we realized, okay, the whole society over here is built on suing each other. And we had to explain that not only in Denmark, but in Europe for that matter, it's like, this is nothing. This little kid did something extremely innocent, and there was nothing in it. And he told him not to do that. And listen, you can do that with your mom or your sister, but not me. And that was over. That's it. It was over. That's the European way to approach it. Having seen more and more America, I've realized that's not always the case here. And it's a fair question, because people were frustrated that he didn't, seriously frustrated that he didn't go to the police, he didn't get a lawyer right away. But it was innocent, nothing happened. He forgot everything about it 2 seconds later. The little girl, unfortunately, did not forget about it. Yeah.
I imagine another difference maybe to American viewers is the kindergarten itself. Just the amount of, like almost like the ratio of teacher to children seems quite different as well. But I mean, our schools are jam-packed. But what was your relationship working with all these kids? I mean, you can kind of sense this is such a dark film. But I imagine like on set might have been quite fun with all these children you've seen that really before.
Yeah, I mean, it was all about having fun with the kids. I mean, he was one of the funny teachers. I mean, he was one of the funny teachers. You always have one or two funny teachers, right? and he's a kindergarten teacher. He used to be what do you call first grade? What do you call first to ninth grade? What's that called? Elementary school teacher. He used to be that. His school closed down, and that was the job that was left for him, right? So he takes it as serious as he can, plays around, fools around, have fun with the kids. And I'm not unfamiliar with that. I have kids myself. I think it's fun to make kids laugh all the time and they do stupid things. So that was not a tricky thing to interact with. It was tricky to interact with the little girl, plays the lead, obviously, because we had to tell a certain portion of what the story was about, not the entirety, but she had to understand some of it for practical reasons. We didn't tell her all of it, but she's just one in a million or one in a billion that you get somebody who's so unspoiled, never done anything before. She had two friends with her on set. So every time we'd done the scene, she just went over there and played with them, and she came back and we told them what this next scene was about, and we did it, and she went away again. She was magical to work with because she's so intense, and everything comes so naturally to her. And she wasn't always aware of what she was doing, but she was as well. It was a very fine combination.
That scene where she's being questioned in the preschool by the...
Yeah, it's a terrible, terrible scene.
It really, yeah.
This is it's word by word written off a transcript from an interrogation in Norway. This is how he did it, and this is what they used for trial. And he was just pulling off everything. She didn't say anything herself. He was saying anything. So it happens, but it doesn't happen out of malevolence. It happens out of fear and love for children. So that guy, that policeman, was not the baddie, but he did it wrong, for sure, and it ruined somebody's life.
Do you have any idea from her where her, I guess it's just so natural, but her facial expressions, like that sort of clenching of...
She had a melancholic look to her as a kid.
Yeah.
And that was just a natural gift, right? I mean, we tried different ages, because the older, the more aware you are, the more you may be able to act. The younger you are, we will have to sacrifice some of the acting for something pure. So we went with the youngest version and the purest version. She was no animals and no kids were hurt in this film. She was very. She had a great time. She loved it, and then now, 10 years later, 12 years later, she's never thought about it until now. Now she wants to be an actor, but she really. And it's cute and sweet. I met her, so that was a beautiful way of like. So she wasn't stuck in like doing all kind of roles after that. She was just doing this one, and people care about it. And now she does. It's good time.
Another one of the great child performances is your son Marcus in the film. Any of the intensity he brings to that.
Right. Yeah. And that was another little lucky punch for us. He was there. He was just there because his kid's sister was actually auditioning for the part. And he was just sitting in the waiting room bored. And then the cast looked at him and said, "What, you bored?" He said, yeah, I'm just going to figure out. We go, "Do you want to give it a shot?" And he gave it a shot, and it was just fantastic. So that was some prizes in that family after, I guess.
Before we go out to the audience, I just want to ask about this. One, I think my favorite scene in the movie is when you first confront Theo, the character played by Tom Larson. Bring us back to what you remember about that scene where you come to his house, and that, for me, that's kind of when it starts to set in a little bit.
Oh, the first time I confronted him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an interesting thing. I mean, we were following the script very closely, but at the same time, things popped up and we did a little different. But it was such an awkward meeting because at that point, my character didn't know what was going on. It was just rumors, things were happening. He had no idea. He was told to go home, super confused, and he did everything everybody asked him to do, but that wasn't enough, right? And then he decides to go and talk to his friend because this is obviously wrong. It's insane, you know me, you always know me. And then in the beginning, his friend is to a degree open to have a dialogue. I mean, he's heartbroken from the dilemma, but he's willing to listen. but that stops pretty fast when his wife gets us involved. And this is the thing, you can't hate her for what she's doing. I mean, I understand what she's doing. She just believes a little girl, and that man has no right to sit on that couch anymore. And that was also one of the most terrifying things about the film. You couldn't hate anyone. I think they are all reacting in a way that I understand. You know, it's just like there's no one to punch. Unless you want to punch the little girl, and you don't want to do that. so it's just, it was frustrating. And it became frustrating for me as an actor as well. I mean, I don't go around pretending I'm the character constantly, and especially when you have kids around, you need to be, make the kids feel comfortable, and so they can rely on me being masked, and then I'll be the character, and they understand when I do the difference, right? But it felt very lonely because I had a lot of scenes by myself, and all the thoughts were shutting my face constantly. So it felt so lonely to be this character for 2 months. Yeah.
It's interesting, the fabulous church scene at the end, sort of that recognition with Theo at last kind of happens from a distance, when he's, you get that first eye contact from him. Can you talk a little bit?
And I think that his friend feels that as well. And then, obviously, things happen the way they happen from there. Yeah. So that was the idea, that he, couple of shots, and then, and then.
Did Thomas, your acting partner, have the same interpretation of that? Did you talk about that?
Yeah. I think that his character, there's a couple of scenes that's left out where he kind of gets more and more doubts whether I did anything wrong or not. They're out for a good reason. So he's been there. So his character has actually been building up to the moment where it's like, we can't go on like this. We need to talk to it, Yeah. So he was on the same page, yeah. His wife was not.
No, understandably. Let's take some audience questions. This one right here.
Hi, thanks. I love this movie and The Promised Land, and I wanted to ask if there's any aspects of a character that you can explore in a historical drama versus a contemporary movie like this, or vice versa.
I think there is. There is a difference, obviously. There's a bubble of time that will restrict or do the opposite to character. Certain things you would never do in the 1750s, like kiss. Nobody kissed in the 1700s. We do in the film though, and we do for a good reason. We want to just have a little bridge from present age into that time, right? But nobody kissed. That was just not a thing. It came in the late 1800s. But there's also formalities and the way people talk to each other. And the whole idea about like coming home from work and asking your wife or your spouse, like, how's your day been? It's not happening. Like, nobody asks that question. You know how the day's been. It's been slacking. It's been slacking. So the small talk business was not part of that period. And which is very much part of our time. And small talk is not there for small talking, it's because we're circling around something more important that we don't want to dive into. That's what we use small talk for, right? So you have to be aware of that. So there are differences. In terms of like emotional, no. A man would restrain his feelings and his emotions in a completely different way 200 years ago than he was today. And a man today, you can find men who will do that as well. But it obviously a lot happened in 200 years. So there is that. And then there's a hierarchy between men and women, between a baron and a peasant. That hierarchy is gone as well today. So there's a lot of things that will differ. But in terms of entering as a character, I don't think too much about that. That's just a hat we need to wear and a costume, right? And then we'll have to dive into it and be present in scenes as much in the 1700s as we would today. But we'll have to be aware of the customs to a degree. Sure.
Thanks.
Did I answer that question?
Yeah.
Right here.
Hi. Well, I know there was an alternative ending film, the way we discussed that at the end. Which one would you have preferred to be the final one?
Well, here's the thing. In both of the films I've done with Thomas, that was alternative endings. And I was the one who wanted the alternative endings, and I was the one who was completely 100% wrong. And I can admit it now. It was tough. The ending was actually, had an ending, and it's best death you ever see. So the guy shoots. The guy who's shooting is one of the friends, one of the young boys. The guy, the bigger guy, who wants to be part of the group, who's not really part of the group, and he gets a chance to do something good for the city. So it's super sad, right?
So he's like hunting.
So he gets shot, and he just goes like a deer face down in the mud. And it was so brutal the way we did it, and I was just like, fantastic. And then Thomas showed it to people, and the producer saw it, and they were like, and we all the actors were fighting for it. Like, wait, he's so cool, so right. I mean, he's never going to get out of the situations or this is beautiful. And yeah, nobody's going to watch it. Fair enough. Good point. And the same with another round. I hated the dance. I didn't want to dance. Yeah, and for a lot of reasons. It's not that I didn't. It was a realistic film, a very realistic film, and I just couldn't get my head around why would anyone just get up and start dancing. That was for me. We could do it if we did it in a heightened way. We could do it if he was doing it as like a version of him seeing himself dancing this well, and then when in reality we saw him just being drunk, right? So I kept coming up with these ideas, and Thomas was like, I gave in and I was wrong, and that was good. So yes, that was an attempt. Do not listen to me when it comes to it. And our Christmases are more built on like Santa Claus and small Santa Claus and thingies. And if you see little biblical images, it will be a rarity to a degree. I mean, it's there, but it's not like in the Latin American church, or the Catholic church. It's not as built on that anymore. I'm sure he's aware of it. He always has churches in his films. There are funerals or celebrations or weddings, because for him it's a family thing. His films are very much about families, right? So I'm sure he's aware of it. The whole whispering thing and the Judah thing, I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence, or maybe he's that smart. I'll ask him.
Is The Hunt a Christmas movie?
Yeah, it's like it's bad Santa.
Who else? All right there.
Yeah, love the film. Thank you for being here. Just wondering about the rehearsal process for this film in particular, and then piggybacking on that, what do you prefer as an actor as far as rehearsing goes?
Theater craves and needs rehearsal for a lot of reasons. I hate it. It's not that I don't want to touch upon it. I do want us to have, like, meet up in the morning, go through the scene, mark the scene, the idea of what we're doing, and be on the same page. But I want to leave some of what we call the butterfly dust for later. We rehearse too much, stuff is disappearing, and we start repeating each other, and we can get over that process by doing it a lot, and then we find it again. But I like the first and second take, not just for me, but for everybody else. Certain little things are happening that we could never plan, and we can't repeat it. So for me, rehearsing on film is more about being on the same page, talking through. If somebody definitely wants to rehearse it, I'll do it for whatever reason. But holding back a little, just a little, and we will wait until that magic word happens. It's called action. And we need that word action to be magical, because if it doesn't become magical, we're just in that zone the entire day, and we can't stay in there. We have to know what's happening. Yeah.
Is there something specific to Thomas Vinterberg's process that you just love? I mean, you just are so good in both of his movies. Is there any? I mean, and he comes from a school of Danish filmmaking that's quite famous in Dogma 95. But is there something specific to his process that you're drawn to?
I think that the whole kitchen sink drama was something that placed Denmark on the map in the 90s, and I was part of that. I mean, obviously not with Thomas, I was doing the Pusher films, doing like drug guys, high super realities and stuff. And so that's where I started. This is why I grew up with those kind of films. I mean, I started out being bald and having respect tattooed in the back of my head, and now I'm a nicer guy, which is great. But it's founded in the same realism and so reality. So I'm a big fan of that. I will always come home to that because it is my home. Having said that, there's something super liberating about being a Hollywood film and being able to do magic, you know. So that's also part of this world. But it's definitely my home. And Thomas started out with Dog Brothers.
You got time for like one or two more here. In the back there, yes. Right, yeah.
So when you answered the question about the rehearsals, you mentioned the butterfly dust moment. Was there any scenes in this movie that you felt like you saw that magic in your performance or your co-stars that you were like, yeah, this is it?
Yeah, quite a few times. I mean, the little girl is obviously, that is, it's very important with the little girl, for instance. You know, we do the scene, make sure that we go the language she wants to, just like completely dry, not act anything. And then when we act, just focus on it, just see what happens when she gets these questions or interaction with me or when she's working on. You will get some freebies in the beginning that might not happen later on because then she's getting bored and she's getting used to the scene, right? But that happens to grown-ups as well. And yeah, the church scene was one of them. That's like Thomas wanted, like, let's talk about how we do it. We can talk about it, but I'm not going to show anything yet. I want to see where it lands myself, kind of, right? And Thomas is very open to that. So, okay, so, but approximately, what are you going to do, man? Okay, I'm probably going to do something like that and this and that. And then, okay, everybody's ready for that? That's fine. And so that kind of moment is interesting. And so the first couple of shots were interesting. And from there on, we're copying it to a degree, changed a little, but then we had the framework of it. That was one incident that has actually nothing to do, it has something to do with her. But the little girl, when she is being interrogated by this quote-unquote social worker, in the scene, and I was there when they shot it, in the scene, he keeps asking her, she's denying stuff, and then he keeps saying, did he show you his, did he show you? Eventually she just gets tired and she nods. And she nods. At that very moment when she nodded, there was a kind of a cuckoo watch that went off in the background going ding. And it was so chilling because his faith was determined now. He was over, just for that little nod. And it happened. The watch just went off with a little ding. And it was like, whoa, that was cool. And we might not say, yeah. So yeah, so sometimes it will happen, not always, but we have to be open for those butterfly things.
We have time for one more. We're just going to do the last question here. Yes, you right there.
Hi. So at the end of the movie, when he's at his son's like graduation to manhood, he's like really proud of him, but also were you like sensing trepidation for him because he's entering a world where now he can be like accused of the same things? He's becoming a man. Also, my friend Sophia says hi.
What was that last one?
My friend Sophia says hi.
Thank you, Sophia. And the passing of the gun is obviously a generational thing. I didn't have in mind so much that he would have the risk of going through something like that as well. It was more like we're back. We're back in a society where we do wrong. Almost. There's something that is missing. There's a little thing piece is missing somewhere. And we can't put our finger on it, and we obviously see what it is in the end when the shot goes off. But the little girl is there, and she came across the floor. That was funny enough. That was a thing that we came up with on the spot because we wanted to reunite somehow in that scene, and we couldn't come up with it. But she had that thing without touching the lines, and then I saw in the hallway that the entire floor was full of lines, and I said, "Thomas, come on, and then he said, "You got this scene." And then, and it was like he went over and he picked her up, he touched her, and he held her like he should be able to do in a decent society, right? And so that was, it was more about coming home, being accepted again, and showing the world, I'm here, and I'm allowed to be here. And I think the gun was representing that as well.
Well, man, it's an incredible movie, incredible performance.
That's
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
I'm curious how many people, it's kind of hard to look up and see, but how many of you have already, by applauding, how many of you had already?
We didn't spend extra time rehearsing we all rehearsed with the scenes we had to rehearse, right? Nikolaj was looking for her for a while, and I came in and I did auditions with a number of girls, and there's quite a few that were good, well, maybe even great. But once we saw the tapes in the evening, it was just like, well, there she is. The camera just went like, even, she was speaking Swedish in the scenes, and she had to pick up Danish eventually. And she was trying her best to do Danish, actually, and she fucked up a lot. And even when she fucked up, you just went like, she's fantastic to watch. And so the camera just loved her, and we knew that those are some freebies that we wanted. Like, it just, if the camera loves you, you can go in and you can be fantastically evil and fantastically sweet, but you still, there's a benefit to that, right? Did I rehearse a lot? We rehearsed some. Not a lot. I mean, we went through the scenes in the morning and
yeah, I think we only did 2 days of rehearsals.
Yeah, and figure out how we looked and how we walked. And
Even Les or I, we're not big fans of rehearsing. Actually, we like what happens in the moment. We're big fans of really discussing the script and discussing every scene in detail and being completely sure that we are on the same level about the character and the character's, motivations and through lines. But that's just talk. We don't want to sort of, okay, let's do the scene again and let's do it again. I've heard of other directors who really benefit from rehearsing, but I don't personally sort of, I like that when it's sort of the magic happens on set.
Spontaneity, yeah.
It's not like they knew every beat of what was going on. They knew the macro version of the story. Also, of course, nobody knows what happened when they closed the doors and had their marital arguments and whatever. So we could make up that completely just based on some writing, some diaries, and so the way I approached it, or me and the co-writer, was we were just trying to tell a story that thematically we believed was the right one, and that we were being faithful to who they were and what they wanted. But on the other hand, we could also create certain, ideas. A lot of the stuff they talk about, obviously, you don't really know what they actually talked about. But we just tried to create drama from sort of stitching the various events together in a way that we thought was intelligent for the film.
Did you have like a historical consultant?
We did have several consultants, and some of them went, that probably didn't happen, and I went, yeah, but I wanted the movie anyway. And also, none of them looked as good as Alicia and Madison, in real life. Yeah.
But I mean, there might be like 5 people who are specialists in exactly that story back home. The second a film like this has a premiere, there's 200,000 people. Every critic in the world knows better than we do. And which they don't. But I mean, you need to take a liberty. I mean, there's no reason to give a history lesson in a film. It's just boring. You can spend 10 minutes with a blackboard and save a lot of money. So obviously we're here to tell the story through this dramatic thing, be as true as we can, but tell the story we find important as well. So that means that focusing on the 3 of them and their relationship. This historical drama is taking place, he takes over the country, but that's not the important story.
Yeah, it has to be interesting and dramatic and all the things that.
Yeah, I mean,
Real life sometimes.
no comparisons. Like when films become too political, it tends to be, in my world, super boring, because you can basically just write an essay, put it in the paper, and save a lot of money. But you need to have the complexity of people in a film. That's what a film is for. If you want to make a political message, it's much cheaper to do it in a different way.
Let's see, any other questions? Yes, right there.
Yeah, kind of what you were saying last, Schwitz is
Did you have like a historical consultant?
We did have several consultants, and some of them went, that probably didn't happen, and I went, yeah, but I wanted the movie anyway. And also none of them looked as good as Alicia and Madison, in real life.
But also, I mean, there might be like 5 people who are specialists in exactly that story back home. The second a film like this has a premiere, there's 200,000 people. Every critic in the world knows better than we do. And which they don't. But I mean, you need to take a liberty. I mean, there's no reason to give a history lesson in a film. It's just boring. You can spend 10 minutes with a blackboard and save a lot of money. So obviously we're here to tell the story through this dramatic thing, be as true as we can, but tell the story we find important as well. So that means that focusing on the 3 of them and their relationship, this historical drama is taking place, he takes over the country, but that's not the important story.
Yeah, it has to be interesting and dramatic and all the things that.
Yeah, I mean,
Real life sometimes.
no comparisons, like when films become too political, it tends to be, in my world, super boring, because you can basically just write an essay, put it in the paper, and save a lot of money. But you need to have the complexity of people in a film. That's what a film is for. If you want to make a political message, it's much cheaper to do it in a different way.
Yes, right here.
Hi, I just brought something for Mads. I wanted to know if I could give it to you.
Of course you can. It's a great question, though.
I have a question.
I'll get it in
All
a
right,
second.
a real question.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
This is a little bit of a silly question, but is calling a place the world's asshole a common Danish phrase? Because I noticed it in this and in the Promised Land.
Yeah.
It is. You know what? That's so weird, because I never realized that I used the same line in both movies.
I thought it was cool.
Until now. And that just shows you how lazy I am as a writer. Like that I actually use the same thing in 2 movies. That's horrible. Oh yeah, it's very common in Denmark to say that.
Thank you.
We're not going to tell you where it is, but it's Sweden. So.
All right, I'm getting the high sign because I have another movie coming
Okay,
here.
yes.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Nikolaj.
Thank you so much for coming.
Here we go.
It's booked and it's upside down. Thank you.
And I actually have
Oh, give time. Oh, it's Nigel. Thank you guys. All right. One autograph, then I gotta go. Right. Thank you guys. Thank you.
Yes. You're sitting right next to me. Somebody was saying, I would say this which is the most honest answer I can give you. I've made 6 films, and the 2 absolute best films are the ones I've made with Mads. And so, there's a reason for that.
So when you wrote it, were you picturing?
Oh yeah, from the first, even before I started writing the script, I was like, this character is Mads, but also the biggest joy was working with Melina, who plays Anna Moose, because she's so wonderful and she's so much herself and she's so unspoiled, but she also couldn't remember her lines. And we had to take, she could not remember any of her lines.
She didn't speak Danish.
She was from Sweden.
Proud of and why?
Did everybody get a question?
Yeah, yes. And be like a number of reasons and a number of films for different reasons. There will be certain things I've done that was like, can't go there, that's dumb, so let's try it. And then I was happy and nobody else liked it. So I grew a little. There'll be films that everybody loves, and I'm like, yeah, I like it, but it wasn't something special for me. Yeah, so the answer is yes. But I'm not going to sit here and name certain films because I don't see my career.
You could name
I don't think.
You got a chance now, man.
But it doesn't matter, you're going to call me in 10 years. I don't see my career as something that has a goal. I've always been, it's going to sound super pretentious, but I've always been very simple about the thing I'm doing now is the most important thing I'm ever going to do. This is going to be the best fucking film in history. Luckily, it's never going to happen because then I'm going to get a chance to do it again. Right? So for me, I don't want it to be stepping stones towards a goal. I want it to be very important what we do now. And then we don't succeed, we give it another shot. And that will eventually be a career, as opposed to aim for a career you will never get, and you'll be disappointed with everything you've done. So I'm just happy with everything I've done, even the things that wasn't that good. And this one was a good one.
Good save.
Yes, right here.
So I have a question.
And I'm hearing that from a lot of European directors actually. They kind of like, they come here and then they run home like completely broken and scared. Never go back as well.
What true? I mean, there is a big difference. If ask a Danish actor to be in a film, they will say, okay, so you're playing this guy, and keep the accent. The accent is great. They will tell the director, like, I love what you did. Can you come and do it over here? But can you change yourself completely? And that's it.
There's so many people involved in the process.
Sure.
Yeah.
And there's so much at stake, you know.
Specifically to make them feel at home.
Yeah, I think it's just like, is there a reason for it? I think it's simple.
While I was in school, and I had the luxury to work with my biggest hero in Denmark. And I'm not going to tell you his name because he turned out to be the biggest asshole I ever met. And I was just watching him trying to destroy the film and making me feel uncomfortable, and everybody else around me feel uncomfortable. And he was so good. He was so fucking good. And I was like, why? Why are you doing that? And I swore an oath to myself, like, if anyone ever, at any point, think I'm kind of half good, I'm going to be the nicest guy ever. Because the scene turned out bad. He turned out bad. Everything turned out bad. If he had just helped me a little, it would have been great. You know. Eventually, we found each other, and I love him. And he's passed away now, so I'm not gonna ditch him because he was fantastic in many ways, and there was a reason why he did like that. I'm not gonna go there. But so it's very important that if that person is good, you might be good, and she might be good, and then maybe the film is good. So it's also an investment, isn't it? It's a little selfish to make other people good.
Yeah, and you're collaborating on something that makes
Sure,
everything better.
and you don't want anybody standing on the set for the first time feeling uncomfortable. That's insane.
There was a question right behind that person. Yes.
Hello.
Because you were just getting bored with the scene. And then you went, cut.
Yeah, you gotta use that. Yeah, exactly.
I heard that you disagree with W.C. Fields, that says you should never work with kids or animals, right?
Yeah, I think he was lying though, because he was always really good with kids and animals.
Yeah.
I think that was just him being funny. When he stabbed kids in his film, he always stabbed them with forks and shit. No, you have to work with it, because, I mean, there is a tendency that we kind of go in our own bubble and we focus so much on what we have to do, and we choke it, we strangle it, right?
And if you just relax a little and follow the lead of a kid or a dog, all of a sudden you do something natural. And it's a good lesson.
I love that. All right, we're gonna end on that note, because we have to wrap up, and I love that.
Is that the end note?
Yeah.
Did I just end on the word animal?
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Can't do everyone on this stuff, you have to go somewhere else.